Imagine you design the perfect weapon for the perfect mission, a weapon that can literally move mountains. Now, what if you're asked to use that same weapon on a city? Well, that's the story we're getting into today. A secret war plan, a man facing an impossible choice, and a decision that is unfolding as we speak.
Everything really starts with this one number, 30,000 pounds. That is the weight of a single bomb. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around. So picture this. Take a city bus, fill it to the brim with solid concrete, and then drop it from miles up in the sky. That is the kind of raw power we are talking about here. And that, of course, brings up the big question, right? What on earth requires a weapon that massive? The answer takes us deep inside a mountain and right into one of the most dangerous military situations of our time. To really understand the crisis playing out right now, we have to go back a bit. We have to look at a mission that was, by all accounts, a perfect strike. It was a textbook operation with a weapon that was designed for one and only one very specific purpose. So this is it, the GBU-57. Everybody just calls it the bunker buster. And look, it's not just a big bomb, it's more like a specialized key. It's a key designed to unlock the most secure, most buried places on the entire planet. It's engineered to chew through 200 feet of reinforced earth and concrete before it even goes off. Seriously, think about that. It's like a flying crowbar the size of a telephone pole. And this right here, this was its masterpiece, Operation Midnight Hammer. This was the brainchild of an Air Force planner, a guy named Colonel David Mitchell. You had 7 B-2s flying all the way from Missouri, and they dropped their bombs in this perfectly timed, synchronized sequence. The first bombs were like a drill bit, just shattering the rock and creating a tunnel. And then the final ones went right down that weakened corridor and delivered the knockout blow. Just like that, Iran's Fordow facility, the supposedly invulnerable site they'd spent 15 years building, was just gone. But this story doesn't end there with that perfect strike. Not even close. 8 months go by. Everything's quiet. And then, Colonel Mitchell, the same guy who planned that flawless mission, he finds something that makes his stomach drop. He just happens to come across some procurement papers. And what he sees is that the Pentagon has just bought 14 brand new GBU-57s from Boeing. Now, why is that number significant? Because that is the exact number they used in Operation Midnight Hammer. Now, to an outsider, it might just look like they're restocking the inventory. But to Mitchell, it felt like something else was going on, something totally different. And it was the wording in these documents that really set off the alarm bells. It didn't say anything about replenishing stock or routine maintenance. The language was very specific, critically needed to support strategic contingency war plans. Now, for a guy like Mitchell, a 26-year veteran, that distinction is everything. This isn't just, replacing what you used. This language means you're preloading the gun for another shot. They weren't just putting bombs in a warehouse. They were getting them ready to be used again, and soon. And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of things from the last few weeks that seemed totally unrelated, they just started clicking into place. For Colonel Mitchell, they were forming a really clear and honestly, a pretty terrifying picture. You just have to look at the timeline and it tells the whole story. First, inspectors find weapons-grade uranium. Okay. Then, a few weeks later, Iran tests a missile that could carry it. And what happens right after that? The exact military assets you would need for a major strike, stealth fighters, carrier groups, they all start moving into position. It's like a checklist, and all the boxes were being ticked, just like they were before the Fordow strike. The very same day he sees those procurement papers, Mitchell gets called into a briefing. It's in CIF-3, which is basically the most secure room in the entire Pentagon. And this is where that theoretical threat he'd been piecing together is about to become a very concrete mission with a very real deadline. But this new mission was radically different from the last one. I mean, it was a completely different animal. The first strike was against a single isolated facility way out in a mountain. This new plan, it targeted 5 facilities, all of them buried deep underneath Tehran, a city of 9 million people. The goal wasn't just to set Iran's program back anymore. The new goal was to end it, for good. It was a huge strategic shift from just containment to, decapitation. So for the next 90 minutes, for an hour and a half, the generals in the room discussed everything. B-2 flight paths, tanker logistics, the sequence of the attack. But through all of that technical talk, there was one unavoidable fact that was just hanging in the air. And it all came down to this number. An intelligence estimate delivered with this, cold clinical precision. over 1,000 civilian casualties. And as the briefers made very clear, that was the best case scenario. If just one bomb went a little astray, or if a building collapsed in a way they didn't expect, that number could get much, much worse.
For a man who would spend his entire career planning how to destroy things, this was a completely new kind of math. And it forced a choice, not just for him personally, but for the entire country. So 3 hours after leaving that briefing, Colonel Mitchell did something he had never, ever done in his career. He picked up a phone. Now look, he couldn't leak the classified details of the plan, but he could give a reporter the context. He could explain what that huge bomb order and all those troop movements really meant. In that one phone call, he turned a top-secret war plan into a very public debate. And the fallout was instant. I mean, Congress just erupted. International allies started calling, expressing serious concern. Military lawyers began to quietly debate if a strike with such predictable civilian deaths was even legal under international law. And of course, Iran declared that any strike on Tehran would be an act of war against its people, meaning total war. But the White House response? It was completely unambiguous. The president came out and made it crystal clear. The political arguments, the legal questions, the potential casualties, none of it was going to stop the mission. The cost, whatever it was going to be, had already been deemed acceptable. And, well, that brings us to today. Right now, those new bunker busters are being delivered to Whiteman Air Force Base as we speak. The latest intelligence suggests Iran's timeline for a functional bomb is shrinking from months to just weeks. All the pieces are in place. The decision point is here. Which leaves us with the exact same question that Colonel Mitchell must be wrestling with every single day inside the Pentagon. When all of your options are catastrophic, when you're choosing between a nuclear-armed Iran on one hand or an attack that you know will kill over 1,000 innocent people on the other, who gets to decide which price is worth paying? And by the time we all figure out the answer, the bombs might have already fallen.